Welcome, everybody, back here on Segal Talk at the Martin E. Segal Theaters and the Graduate Center CUNY in Manhattan, in New York City, at City University. And it's another day on planet Earth, another week for us. I think it's week 17, where we talk to theater artists in New York City, in the US, but also globally, all around the world, where over 100 artists have shared with us how they experienced that very unique and somehow still unbelievable moment we are going through, this catastrophe movie we all live inside, where the outside world seems stranger than any fiction. And when we go outside, we also do feel like we are no longer in the reality we used to know. And the question is, what will be? What will happen? Will ever go back? What has changed and what will change? And what we do know, life will be very, very different. Somehow we are so far away from each other, and somehow also closer through Zoom and talks like this. And it has a profound impact, of course, on the theater community. Theaters are closed mostly around the globe, even so there are first openings in France, Germany, and other countries. Portugal, as we heard from Thiago Rodriguez in a wonderful interview last week. But it's bleak. People are out of jobs, musicians, technicians, lighting designers, actors, and we do not really know where all this will go. Over 45 million Americans filed for unemployment at a certain time, and violence in cities is up, but also civil unrest, which is a good thing, that people voice their protest on the streets, and the Black Lives Matter movement had a profound impact. We all do think, and we all do know, and so it's just an incredible moment in history we are going through. America has higher and higher numbers, still the highest in the world, up to 70, 80,000 infections a day. New York City is doing well, down from 800 dead people in a day in April. I think it was April 17. For 5 or 6 days, it was without one COVID loss of life, which is remarkable. And it is a great city we all live in, and we will come back. The question just is how. New York is such a unique place and such a great place. And one of the reasons is the variety and diversity of the cultural offerings of theater performance. And a part of that community, even so a little bit overlooked, very unfairly, I think, is the tap dance community. It's a fantastic art form, I think, like jazz. It's an American invention. It's an art form that collected influences from around the globe, but yet it's a uniquely American art form that went through many changes, ups and downs, and now I think is also enjoying a moment of resurgence, but also internationally, perhaps even more people are doing tap dance outside the US than inside, and it has become a serious art form. And with us today, we have 3 significant members of that community. So I'm gonna read a little bit from the bios, not too much, you can see it out there, but with us is Acia Gray. Acia, thank you for joining us. And she's a soloist, choreographer, and master teacher who has toured in the US and run since 1983 and co-founded the Tapestry Dance Company in Austin, Texas. She was the artistic director of the Soul to Soul, a tap dance festival. It's not so easy for Germans to pronounce this. And she's a graduate of the American Academy of Dramatic Arts in New York City, just close by to the Graduate Center. She received many awards for her great work. The Hoover Award, the American Tap Dance Foundation gave that out to her. And she was nominated for the Princess Grace Award in the early 90s. And she served as the director of the International Tap Association. And her work toured in the US, Canada, China. She's seen on documentaries, A Class Act, The Magic of Only Cold, Apple Dies, Thinking on Their Feet, and so many more things on PBS. And she is truly a core member of what American tap dance is about. Deborah is also with us, Deborah Mitchell, and she now is for over 25 years the founder and artistic director of New Jersey's Tap Dance Ensemble. And she has a rich and extensive background in career with the art form of tap. And she was a protégé of Leslie Bubba Gaines. And the Copasetics, if I say that right, and really award-winning professionals. Their credits includes the Cotton Club, a great movie picture, Broadway production, Black and Blue, PBS Great Performances, and tours with the great Cab Calloway, and many, many other things. Under her direction, NJTAP Dance Ensemble has received People's Choice Awards, which is a big thing, an important thing that people like what you do, I think. Yes. And it has to be a citation of excellence in the arts from the stage she works in. So, really, congratulations on your art. And with us also is Tony Waag, who's the founder of the American Tap Dance Foundation. It's a nonprofit in New York City since 2001 with the mission to establishing and legitimizing tap dance as a vital presentation, education, and art form. And so he created the Tap Festival in New York City, the International Tap Dance Hall of Fame, Tap Preservation, Hoover Awards, Gregory Hines Youth Scholarship Fund, and so much more. And he has been featured in hundreds of concerts, film, and television productions. And he is opening at the moment, since 2010, the New York City American Tap Dance Center, where he educates and mentors and trains next generation of tap dancers. Tony and I met when we presented Brian Seibert's great book. It's Brian Seibert, who's now one of the dance critics at the New York Times, who has a great love and dedication and devotion to tap dance. Our book he wrote, I think, 10, 12 years on, was called What the Eyes Hear, the History of Tap Dancing. And for 3 days, we screened from his private archive material. We collected it for the first time and I did a couple of evening events with it. So I apologize for talking so long. It is all about listening. And today we would like to listen from you to hear how is the tap dance community doing. And Acia, maybe we'll start with you. Where are you at the moment and how are you?
I'm listening. I'm listening. That's the biggest thing I'm doing right now. I am in a position also as an administrator and artistic director of Tapestry Dance Company, just really looking into surviving the next season. It's hard to go past that. It's actually in Austin, Texas, being one of the hot spots of COVID-19 right now in the South. Things change here weekly, daily. And writing grants, figuring out what to do with my professional dancers that come from around the world. One of them made it into Australia back home. Will he be able to come back? Pretty much Austin, the public through a major survey said they will not go and see performances inside a building. And Tapestry has actually been closed since March 14th because we will not teach inside a building during this crisis, which is very hard. There are dance studios, commercial studios that are doing such, but safety is #1 priority for us. And I think, and many people, personally, I know that our future is going to include online offerings, which is such a wonderful asset that's been added to our plate. However, at this time, as an artistic director, I'm not a filmmaker. So when I think about producing online, do I have a budget to bring somebody in that actually can help create a situation that is going to touch people's lives online? The big mission of Tapestry is weaving dance into life. And the professional company does concept performances that really do have messages of healing and making a difference in the world. And of course, many times we will also showcase our beautiful American art form of tap dance and pay homage to our great mentors and masters and share the oral history through our education programs, etc. But it really is about survival right now and finding a way to pull together the professional dancers, whether we're spread around the world. One of my dancers is waiting. He had a flight to Brazil that keeps getting canceled because Brazil is as bad as the States are right now.
Yeah, it's #2, yeah.
Yeah, and just not knowing where he's going to be, waiting for a dancer to come in either as a replacement or as an apprentice from Mexico. Well, Mexico is not the is not you know, they're in hard shape. So it really is juggling this, and I don't want to lose the connection to the passion, to the love of what we do. Um, I'm sorry, I'll probably. I've been a drummer and musician since I was 7 years old, and I was raised in a musical family. Found out later that my biological father was a drummer and leader of a swing band, but my stepfather was actually a musician. So fate has it that I am a musician. And tap dance found its way into my life late in my career after I was at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts in New York. And I came back to Austin for a vacation. And one thing led to another, and I auditioned for a tap company back in the late 80s, which I thought, what's a tap company? And you know, I had enough tap. You know, here's the thing that many of us that are raised in theater, you have enough tap of those basic skills of the white Broadway scene of tap that I could get into a musical if I auditioned for a musical. And I worked as a tap dancer in a touring company called Austin on Tap for many years, a busy company. But I was chosen for a conservatory to work with Honey Coles in 1989. And when I met that man, and I met many of those great mentors and their proteges and students around them, it completely changed my life. And that's when Tapestry was born. Actually, Tapestry was born in Boulder, Colorado, in a booth on Pearl Street with Deirdre Strand, who's the co-founder, and Diane Walker on the other side brainstorming what's going on. And just losing that face to face in the room, being a musician connection is what I'm so missing right now. And I don't want to lose the opportunity to educate and to share history and learn more history. I considered myself a very educated, progressive, non-racist, which is not a term I use anymore, person, until many things have come back to me in the last few weeks that I have apologized for in my, you know, unconscious systemic racism that this country is based in. And I want Tapestry to be a part of big change that needs to happen. And that is really affecting our tap community right now. And the love for each other and the love of rhythm and the love of our history, oral history, the stories, the Black artists involved, the homage to our Black mentors and masters, all the people that help weave all of this stuff together. It's a fabric. I want, our community has never been perfect. No community is ever perfect. But I want the communication to stay open. I want healing to happen. I want people to listen to each other. And I want tap dance not to just be, you know, you had mentioned that it's a big resurgence of tap dance. Well, yes, it has been an amazing resurgence of tap dance through what's gone on in the last 30 years. But it's not on the main stage in everybody's world around, you know, in America. If somebody says, you know, that I'm a tap dancer, a lot of people will answer that by saying, oh, I used to do that when I was a kid. And they don't even realize how insulting that is.
Thank you.
You know, it's just, oh my God. And, you know, I remember early in my career when Tapestry was first born, I had a solo, and it was called Biorhythms, and I'm talking to myself. And I remember just the passion. And one of the things I said, it's like, you're a tap dancer, pause, and you're white. So that has also been a part of my life. But it's my passion. And I don't want conflict to keep the passion of a community of rhythm in America, of the roots. You know, I was a kid in Mississippi. I remember the signs, the white drinking fountains, etc. I've been around that crap, and to see that stuff returning now, and not obviously the white drinking fountains, but what I hold hope for And what's so wonderful to see is the diverse protests. There are so many of us that want change, not only in the world, but especially here, everywhere, and in America, and change in how people see tap dance. You know, people need to know where it comes from. They need to know the history. We need to get it out of the, you know, we play so many of our platforms of tap dance are in and around tap dance festivals that are attended by tap dancers and their parents and friends. You know, there are shows that don't, but they're not the majority. And it's education. It's educating these people about what this form is and what it's lived through and what it's struggled through and what it means, and share that oral history that's not written down. It's still fine. It's like Deborah. It's like Deborah talking to people about what did Bubba say to her in that room and what was happening.
That's good. So
That's
Deborah,
the stuff we need to hear.
Exactly. Yeah, thank you, Acia. And Deborah, so where are you at the moment? And tell us a bit how you feel and what's going on.
Well, a lot of what Acia just said, you know, was resonating. I went, yes, 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 especially when I think about what's happening right now in our world. When I think back, I was privileged enough to have a mentor, who, Leslie Bubba Gaines, and I know why she became emotional. I love the art form so much that I was seeking it out. Now, I came from, my hometown is St. Louis, Missouri, and as a Black child growing up, my parents, my mother in particular, always knew how much I loved to dance. In fact, she was responsible for putting me into a dance school so I could tap dance, because she said I was moving in her womb. So she knew that was the right thing to do for me. However, believe it or not, she took me out of that school because of racism. They kept little Black girls like me in the back. And my mother could see from the time I was very young how talented I was. And she said, "You're not going back." And we fought. I was no more than 8, but we fought about it. And she said, "No, you're not going to be in the back. This is before Black was beautiful as far as society is concerned."
Yeah.
So she took my tap shoes away from me and put them in a closet. But I would go in the closet when she wasn't looking and put the shoes on. It would be, she kept hearing this noise. And of course it was me in the closet. So she said to me what I'm sure a lot of young Black children hear. And she said, "You're going to get an education. You can dance anytime." And this goes back to other kinds of thinking about Black and people and dance. She said, "You will always be able to dance. She says, that's in your blood, but you're going to get an education so that you can take care of yourself." I mentioned this because it's like a full cycle for me when I look at what's happening today, because now going back a little bit, it's so many pieces of this. So finally I did go to school. Okay. And I did what she wanted me to do because I knew that she was right. It would be necessary. She wanted to be sure that I was an independent young Black woman, not having to get married or have to live with other people. She wanted to be sure that was there. However, once I finished my education, and I was fortunate enough to even get a master's degree in social work, which I have used many times in this field, believe it or not, because dancers have many needs when it comes to understanding them.
I love it.
I know.
You
know, they need to talk, you know, and it was in group work, which is even better because I'm around groups so much. But I went ahead and I did what she asked. But I knew that I wanted to dance, and I didn't dance in college. I had to first get that done, but I wanted to dance. So I knew that coming east would be the place for me if I wanted to pursue that kind of career. Make a long story short, I was never a dancer. I was not a tap dancer who was bred, obviously, in a dance school, because I was taken out of that when I was 8, 9 years old. So it was still something, though, deep in my psyche that I wanted to do. And I found in New York, and some people probably don't remember, there was a Clark Center. Clark Center was where all the dancers, it's long before Broadway danced and any of those. And I was supposed to go to a New Year's Eve. I had a date, New Year's Eve. And the gentleman who was going to take me on this date said he would meet me. He would come and get me he'd pick me up from the studio. Well, when he got to the studio, I wasn't ready to go. So he said, you know what? I don't think you really want to do this, but I think where you need to go is to the Brooklyn Academy of Music, where there are going to be some old hoofers there that you need to see. And I thought, oh my God. Well, he wasn't insulted. He said, I just think you need to go and see them. And he was right. So I got in my little car and I didn't know where the hell Brooklyn was, but and there were no GPSs, no cell phones, none of that. I just asked people on the street, direct me towards Brooklyn. So I get in my car, I get over to the Academy. And of course, I think it was late. I guess it was late in the evening, because I thought to myself, I didn't want to see a performance. I wanted to see tap dancing in its rawness. When we're getting ready for shows where we're dressed and people say, I wanted to see tap dancing. The young man told me these guys were the founders. He said, these are the men you need to see. And I thought, well, I don't need to see them in a show. I can't afford a show anyway. But if I could see them in a rehearsal, what that would mean to me. Oh, because that's what, when we're rehearsing, that's when you see us truly to me at our best. I mean, we're working it out, we're fixing it and getting it together. So I decided, okay, it's tomorrow. So I decided I would just sit there in my car until the next morning when I could get into this. I didn't know how I was going to get in, but believe it or not, I slept in my car till the early morning light, as they say. And then the maintenance men, they called them garbage men then, because we've gotten very, very special. They were coming to take out the garbage from Brooklyn Academy of Music, and they left open a back door. When they left that door open, I sneaked in to the Academy, and in the darkness, I found my way through to the auditorium. When I got to the auditorium, I sat down. With my tap shoes in my purse. And I waited. And I fell asleep. And I was awakened by voices. And of course, it was like when a child is doing something that they're not supposed to, you get scared when you hear things. So when I heard these voices, it startled me and I jumped up. So when I jumped up, the tap shoes fell out of my lap and hit the floor. And a tall, distinguished gentleman came to the edge of the stage and said, who the hell is out there? And I jumped. I said, oh, just me. And he said, who is just me? So I got in the light because there was no light out there in the auditorium. It was all on the stage. And when I got further up, he says, little girl, what are you doing here? Get up here. So I picked up my tap shoes, put them in my purse, and I went up on the stage. And I told him, I said, I'm here because a friend of mine told me some old guys were going to be here getting ready for a concert, and I wanted to see them. He said, well, you're looking at the old guys. He said, so old guys, introduce yourselves to the little lady. I was in the presence of tap dance royalty, I call it today. This, it'll blow your mind. The tall gentleman was Honey Combs.
Yeah.
The other gentleman came forth. He said, I'm Charles Cookie. Buster Brown was there. Face Roberts. Fayard Nicholas of the Nicholas Brothers. Then he said, let me see, and then there was a gentleman by the name of Bubba Gaines. And all he said was Leslie Gaines. But Bubba was always rather quiet. He was not a real aggressive dancer in the sense of speaking a lot. So I said, I'm sorry, sir. I said, but I didn't get your name. He said, Leslie Bubba Gaines, but all my friends call me Bubba. He said, so just say Bubba. He said, but why are you here? He said, you should be in a dance school or someplace taking class. Well, I said, because I don't see or hear anything in the school that I like. So he said, well, what is it that you like? I said, well, it's not so much that I don't like it, I don't hear it. He said, well, what do you hear? So I looked at him. He said, can you sing it?
Oh.
And I said, well. So he said, well, I'll tell you what. So he started to move his feet and tears came to my eyes. I said, that's what I hear. He said, okay, that's that rhythm that you're hearing inside of yourself. So I said, but that's it. He said, well, look. He said, I tell you what. He said, and he told me later that he had two thoughts in his mind. He said, either this child is crazy or she's a genius. But to come in here with tap shoes among this group of men who have been dancing all their life. So he said he couldn't believe that I would go through such turmoil just to get there. So he said, where do you live? I said, I'm in Newark. He said, I'll come over to Newark and check out your feet. He said, in the meantime, you have carte blanche to come to the concert tomorrow, which was Great Feats of Feet. Right, and that's when I met Dizzy Gillespie and all these people. But getting back to Bubba, this was what touched me so deeply. I had been working out in Newark in an abandoned community center. It was in the South Ward of Newark, which is considered one of the most dangerous wards you could possibly be in, where the riots had occurred and all these things were going on. But I loved this place because they had a wood floor in the building. Only caveat was that you had to climb a fence to get into this building through the back. So when Bubba came over on the train with his dance bag, I said, I was embarrassed. I said, you know, where I practice is an old abandoned building. He said, so I don't care. I've been around the world. You said, let's go see it. So we get there, and I was worried because I knew he was up in age, and I was worried about him getting over this fence. It was a tall wire fence that he had to scale to go in the back door of this building. This sounds crazy. This is what my life has been like. So would you believe when we got to the fence, he said, oh, okay, he threw his dance bag over the fence and he climbed it faster than I did. So we get on the inside, and I hate to take up all your time on this, but this will tell you where my roots really come from. I know Acia, what she's talking about, talk about passion and loving something. We got inside of the building, and he went up on the stage with me, no lights, just windows, nothing like a dance studio. I'm just in an old abandoned building, and that floor was so magnificent, you could hear every tap. So he says, okay, get up there and go ahead and dance. Well, I got on that stage, I did every exercise I knew, little time steps, little flaps. I was working myself to death. And he's not looking at me. He's walking around not looking at me at all. And finally he stops and he says to me, your left foot is stronger than your right. And he said, you thought I wasn't paying any attention to you. He said, I was just listening to you. He said, I think you got something there, little girl. He said, but I'm gonna give you something else. So he reached down in his bag and he pulled out a jump rope. And he said, you know what this is? I said, it's a jump rope. He said, can you do a time step? I said, yeah. He said, can you do a time step and jump rope at the same time? I said, sure. So he said, okay. So he gives it to me. He walked away from me while I was doing the jump rope and time step, and he came back. Bubba's eyes were kind of a bluish gray. He came back and there were tears in his eyes. He said, I grew up in Georgia. I had two partners. We went all over the world, and one of them was called Hutch, who did this jump rope. He said, but Hutch had a problem. And when we were in Europe getting ready to go on, we found out that he had overdosed in the dressing room. He said, but he used to tell me that one day I would see him again. He said, and I used to laugh about it. He said, when I saw you jumping, I saw him again. He said, this is going to take you around the world. He said, and I'm going to give it to you. And from that day on, not only was it important to me to remember what this man was doing for me, he took me into New York City. We were in the studio 3 and 4 days of the week. And I mean hours. And then he'd take me up to Harlem and go to all the bars, and he'd sit me on a stool and he'd tell me stories about his life and about the people he had been with all of his life. He poured all of this into me. One afternoon I told him, I said, we just can't keep doing this and I not pay you something. Because I knew there was a history of these men not getting their just due. Yeah. And I said, I will not do that to you. I have to pay you something. He looked at me, he said, I don't want your money, but someday someone's going to look at you the way you looked at me about this art form. And when you give them back everything that I've given to you, you will have paid me in full. That statement to me was really the genesis of why I founded New Jersey Tap Ensemble. I wanted to give away all this man had given to me. And it was so much. It wasn't just steps. He gave me his life. It was his blood. He made sure he would talk to me. He said one day, I'm not worried about your dancing because that's in your soul. But it's a business that can be a bitch. And I want you to know that you're going to have to be strong to survive it. And I learned all the things about his group was blackballed in Europe for 10 years because they couldn't read the fine print in a contract. And he told me, he said, you're an educated young woman. That's going to take you far. He said, so don't throw that away. You keep those things together. So when people say to me, you know, what did he teach you? They're thinking about steps, but he taught me about life and survival and all. He even mentioned to me, Bubba was very fair. He was like Lena Horne and some of our ancestors who were very fair. You wouldn't know that they were Black people just by looking at them. And when he was younger, he was extremely fair. And he said, we had a gig one time and his 2 partners were brown like I am. And he said they wanted to hire us until they saw the 2 partners were brown. And he said, that's when in Manhattan, they said, no, we can't, we'll take you, Bubba, but we won't take your 2 partners. He said, it was because they were brown. He said, I know it. He said, I said, you either take all 3 or you take none. He had conviction. He had all these, so he taught me things that today in our tap community and places when people start to talk about, you know, when I see people tap dancing, I many times I stop them. I want them to know this is something that goes deep. People say to me, I tell my students, when you watch an artist doing this art form, what draws you to one and doesn't draw you to another? I said, it's that deep passion. It's that thing inside. It's that internal metronome. It's something that I can't give you. I could never teach it. I knew that from Bubba because many times he would say to me, you got an internal metronome. You're not going to get lost. I'm not worried about that. All these things he embodied into me. And when I started the company 26 years ago, that was my desire. You know, I didn't know anything about grant writing or about finding money. I wanted to pass on something so precious that you couldn't put a price tag on it. You couldn't. So I would say, you know, gee, and And I couldn't find many Black children to come into the company because you know why? Because at that time, number one, they were not in dance schools. They couldn't afford to be in dance schools. So that when I sent out an audition for the company, 90% of the people who came to me were white because they were in dance schools and they heard about it, where Black children or children who were brown didn't hear about it because they didn't know, but they had no access. Once again, we're looking at who's got access to something. So I had to go into communities to find children of color, to bring them out to say this. And believe it or not, when I was in New York and went to an audition with my tap shoes, there were Black children or Black dancers who said to me, "Why are you carrying around those shoes?" And I said, "Because I'm a tap dancer. I love to tap." We're not doing that. And they would do pirouettes in front of me to show me that they were doing, more ballet type dance. And furthermore, it was almost, I was putting them down. People, Black dancers would say to me, "We don't shuffle around here." And I knew what that terminology meant to me, because they were equating shuffling, to being less human or less of a dancer than oh no, we're not doing it. Oh, tap dancing. Oh, it's almost a joke. And I can remember still going back to Newark with tears in my eyes and saying to myself, one day I'll teach them how to do it. And that exactly is what happened, because it was put down. It was still seen like step and fetch it. It was still one of those art forms, and it hasn't gone. And today, when Acia was talking about when you tell people you're a tap dancer, not only do they tell you that they were one before, they'll start doing it in front of you.
All the time.
I can tap dance, and they grin and they start shuffling, and it hurts to the core, because it's such a fine-tuned art form. It's so difficult. You really want to do it, you got to work. It's not something you can jump up and do in the middle of, no. But that's what they will do. They will start to smear, and trying to get funding for tap dance company, it's almost like unheard of, or, oh, you're a tap dancer. Oh, that must be fun. Has nothing to do with the lineage, the what it takes to do it, what it can do to bring people together. Now today, and people say, "Oh boy, what didn't people used to do tap dancing?" These are the kinds of quotes people give to you, or the conversation. "Oh, whatever happened to tap dancing? Whatever happened to tap?" I used to, everybody on my block, there was always somebody who tap danced. But it's not, people say to me, "Oh, if I say I'm a tap dancer, oh, show me something."
Oh, yeah.
And I'll say to them, "Have you ever asked the ballerina to stand here and show you something?" I said, "Well then, oh no, that takes years." I said, "Well, it takes years for tap dancers too. So you won't see it unless, but those are the kinds of preconceived notions people have about what we do. And so today, with Black Lives Matter and all that, it's things coming home to roost. It really is, because it's not what we're feeling and seeing right now. It's just been underneath. It's something just bubbling up to the front, and it's good. It's good. Even in the tap community, I know that the thoughts, it's not, as Acia was saying, it's not the best. But you know what? It has pulled back the curtain. It's made people talk.
Yeah.
It's made us, what I was trying to say, it's made us talk to one another. And some of it is painful, but that's okay, because you don't get anywhere without some pain.
That's right.
I didn't mean to go that far, but I had to let you know, it's rare that we as tap dancers get an opportunity to really talk about who we are and where we came from and why we love it and why we do what we do. And the New Jersey Tap is not a big company as far as budget wise, because we've never had a lot of money. We've been blessed with funders and people who love us, but it's so hard to keep going and the education. I've had people say, "Oh, you got tap dancers," and they'll invite us, but they don't care about what we need. The floor, they'll put us on concrete if they have to. I mean, they could care less about. They don't ask you, what do you need? You know, they're not going to do that to a modern or a ballet company. I know this, but they will do it to a tap dance company. They'll say, "Oh, well, you know, either you bring your own floor or, well, can't you use this?" It's almost, it's an insult, you know. And I said, no. I have in the early stages of our company, I turned down jobs because they would not help provide us with what we needed. They figured, well, they're just tap dancers. And there's been concerts where if you say, well, we can carry that, well, we better bring in another company with you, a ballet or modern company, because I'm not sure that a tap company, yes, we can carry a concert, but so we're still breaking there's a lot of barriers that we have got to deal with. And I think this whole movement of saying, you know, we matter, you know, see, it's got all those layers to it. And our art form falls right into it, you know? So, like I said, it's, I understand when I see someone like Acia get emotional. I've cried through what I'm telling you today, but that's okay because I can see Bubba. He goes everywhere with me. And I tell his story as often as I can because it's worth knowing. You know, he will always be alive. You know, when I go into a studio, you know, today, you know, I see some phenomenal tap dancers. And I often say, well, I'll never be the best in the world, but I tell you one thing, no one will love it more than me. I call the ghost of gains because he's always around me, you know, and often I'll say, I wonder what Bubba would say about this happening today, or what would he say about that happening, or if I see a dancer, I'll say, gee, I wonder how Bubba, but I was really blessed. I was in the presence of people who danced in their bare feet. Bubba danced on street corners, you know, and he had to take a job like a lot of the guys some of them had to wash cars. With all that gift they had, they couldn't get a job, so they had to wash cars. Bubba was one of those guys from the banks. You know how you put the money together on a Friday evening and he would take it to wherever it had to go and come back. He was always immaculate in his dressing. He was always so proud. And to be someone helping to carry on that legacy with TAP, it means the world to me. So,
no, really, thank you for.
I'm fighting. Thank
you for sharing.
Yeah.
Thank you, Deborah. Thank you.
Tony, how is the situation, the COVID out there, which is, you know, for even established companies, whether they are profit or non-profit or better or not better, non-profits. How is that for the community? What do you hear? What do you do?
This is directed at me?
Yeah.
Well, first, wait a minute. I have to acknowledge these two women, first of all, because the reason I brought them into this Zoom is that we're contemporaries, and these two ladies here are survivors of an art form, really. I mean, we've been talking for 25, 30 years because we have similar backgrounds. And I do want to just say that I have the same background, the Copasetics. I met the Copasetics in 1976 in my hometown, Fort Collins, Colorado. I met Bubba and Cookie with Brenda Buffalino, who was replacing, I think, Honey at the time, because Honey then came through the same weekend, or the same summer, with Bubba and Brown Sugar. And I was crazy enough to call him up and say, we're coming to the show. Can we meet you after the show? And he said, let's have dinner. I mean, the point is that these gentlemen, and not forget the generation of women at the time too, they were generous and they handed us, and I'm going to now get emotional too. because that's what we're missing online is the personal. It's great to be able to talk about this virtually, but in person, you know, Deb and I, we have a monthly lunch and we sit across from each other at a diner and we talk and complain and kvetch about the art form and about the community. Community's great. The community's dysfunctional at times. I'm, you know, here in Manhattan in a high-rise, reconsidering or revisiting, reflecting on my career, on what I've done, what we've all done, what can we do moving forward. I think, yeah, the three of us are major survivors, and we're gonna everything's gonna be all right, Acia. We are gonna get back into the studio.
That's right.
It hasn't been that long. I mean, you know, considering what other people go through and what, you know, it's not like a world war or anything, though that could happen too.
So
we're gonna get back. We're gonna get back, and we're gonna survive this. But I think what Deborah said also is this has been an opportunity for me to reflect, and I've been very, very lucky in that I've documented everything. So I have, and I had just deposited our entire archives to the New York Public Library at Lincoln Center, the Jerome Robbins division, dance division. And in doing that, I also kept copies of everything. So I am totally prepared and working on sharing that information and that legacy that I worked hard for and that I believe in. And I want to share, like Deborah said, that she wants to, these guys, the Copasetics, even the name is a positive message about this is a beautiful art form. It belongs to everybody. If you like it, Gregory Hines said the same thing. If you've got a pair of tap shoes, you're in. Period, the end. It doesn't matter who you are. You can be 3 years old. You can be an adult student that just does it for fun. You can be a professional. You can be anywhere in the world and become a tap dancer and do with it what you want to. You're not taking it away from anybody. If anything, you're just adding another layer to the amazing art form called tap dance that has been given to us, and now we want to share it, and we are sharing it. And when I think about younger people today, I just wish that they would do their research a little bit more, like they would just understand where this stuff came from. And it's not like we're not out there telling them, and everything is available online now. It's like, hello, you know. And so I think that we're at a crucial time. We're in a very interesting time. There are the haves and the have-nots. There are the privileged and the non-privileged. Absolutely, always. That's society. But if we can make that better, and if we can continue the conversation, and thank you for having us to talk to this, because here I get to even talk to my girlfriends here. It's really deep, and it's fascinating. I mean, the tap dance has, because it's so fascinating and it's used for so many things. It's healthy. It's also a way to communicate with people. I mean, I've seen it change so many lives. It changed my life. I, like Acia and Deborah, met the Copasetics when I was straight out of high school, and I decided to become a tap dancer because up on that stage, they were not only having fun, but they were projecting a positive attitude about, you know, let's move forward, let's move up, let's move out, let's share this art form. And I think that it's it's relatively young in a way. I mean, we're still, like Deborah and Acia said, there's a lot of misconceptions about tap dance. yet today.
Yeah.
And that's because people just don't know. It's all about education. And so if we could just continue as a community to support each other, you know, this community has had its moments where all of a sudden society says, oh, that's tap dance. Oh, no, now this is tap dance. No, what is tap dance? I mean, even today when we're talking about what is tap dance, are we talking about what tap dance is in this, or was in the 70s, or what it is now in Brazil, or what it is in Estonia, for crying out loud? I mean, we got professional tap dancers in Barcelona and in Berlin and Japan and everywhere. I mean, these people, and they love it just like us. And imagine their struggle, because now they're in Japan or Barcelona or whatever trying to raise money for an American art form. I mean, come on. So it's all relative, and people have to just understand and slow down and listen. Thank you, Acia, because I've been doing a lot of listening too, because there's a lot out there right now, a lot of discussion, and that's a good thing.
Yeah.
You know, I think even our generation, we came from probably, I don't know about your parents, but my parents were kind of, you know, and it was kind of the theme of that generation to maybe not even talk about your own heritage because you're American now. You know, I mean, my grandparents immigrated here from Russia. They were Germans that lived in Russia, but when they came to the States, they were giving up all of that. They wanted to be American now. So you didn't hear much history. So, you know, now that we have an opportunity to reflect, I'm feeling good about it. I'm looking at stuff that I never even looked at after I filmed it. I didn't even look at it after I filmed it. And now I'm looking at it going, oh my God, look who was in this production. Look what we did. Look what we put together for one night. And maybe 400 people saw it. And the concert that I just did virtually last week, one concert, there's been 1,000 people now that have seen that concert virtually. So there are definitely pros and cons, and I'm all ears, and I'm trying to teach myself how to maneuver through the virtual period, the COVID years. We'll be talking about this for a long time.
Yeah.
What is this time of Corona? What does it force you to think about it? What is there something that's changing? Is there something where you say we have to reconsider? Or?
Well, I think for the three of us, it is economic questions, like how it's forcing us to, okay, how do we operate now? If we have no earned income and we only rely on funding that's already been cut because they don't have any, I mean, the city, the state, the feds, nobody has any money. I'm expecting a real chop situation. So it is survival mode. A lot of it is about surviving. But I think we're also service organizations, we're nonprofits, so our job is to inspire people also. So how do we come up with the next program that's going to pull people in, and how do we share this information? You know, Zoom is not a great platform for teaching, that's for sure, because of the delay and everything, but it kind of does work, and it offers a different opportunity now where we're actually I'm teaching now virtually, and I'm talking to the students a lot more, not because I know I can't tap as much, but for some reason it's necessary in this the feeling, the vibe of the world right now is we need to communicate a little bit more. We need to make amends maybe, or create new dialogue and new bridges with
you know, you hit on something, Tony, when you said you know, going back and looking at a video or a show that you hadn't seen since you filmed it. I mean, I do the same thing, and Deborah, you probably do too. How often do you go back? We used to have cast parties back in the day where you watch the videotape, but you know, Tapestry through Soul to Soul Festival, because actually Soul to Soul's been around 28 years, but it used to be called the Austin Tap Jam. But we started a faculty conservatory. I don't know, Tony, if you were involved in some of the earlier ones, but it was just the faculty getting together.
Yeah.
It used to be a week. It used to be a week long, and it would be at the very early ones were focused around an artist. So there's like a week long conservatory around Fayard. And so it's Fayard in the room with everybody talking, and then we were learning from him and the oral histories around all that stuff. I haven't gone back to look at that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And I think, you know, in connecting to the people that were involved, because, you know, obviously it would be something that we would all agree need to be out there. Those things need to be seen, that history, the fact that something so special in so many arenas, only 400 people saw it or only whatever. And it's all of that. There's a lot of stuff we can share without spending money, you know, and it helps educate.
Well, and I think as long as you're not like, you know, raising money for it.
Right,
I mean,
exactly.
I basically, I'm putting things out there now, you know, if you want to donate, then we'll just consider a donation.
Right.
Like if you want to give us $5 or whatever, but you don't have to.
Exactly.
Like, you know,
that's the way to go.
Well, you know, you're both of you right, because what I've been doing, I have, you know, in '94 when the company started, we have all these VHS tapes. I mean, I have they were all on VHS, some really precious information and performances. And some people have never seen them, or they'll say, well, remember when we did this or did that? Even for me, one thing that is being sheltered in, I've had a chance to clean out, just, you know, do almost like a purging of what's here, what do I remember? And I think that I've been sending things out now to be digitized so that we can take, you know, I have, like I said, there are dancers like even Jason Janis, who was with me. I've got him when he's 16 years old.
Oh.
You know, and that kind of stuff needs to be seen. I mean, it's archival, but it shows the roots. You know, I've got, you know, dancers, Maurice Chestnut, when he was on Sally Jesse Raphael's show at 10 years old. But these are things that if I could put them online, and Tony gave me a great idea. He does this little Tony TV, and let people see, you know, because a lot of people who see us today think of us as today. They don't think that there was a history.
Oh, right.
That, you know, that we've come a long way, you know, and if they need to see, and the people who are their teachers now, they have a history with us. So they need to see that stuff that, you know, it's been, you know, it's in boxes and places, and I'm bringing them out now. I said, I've got to get this out. Yeah. And Tony's helped me to think about, you know, archiving stuff is a huge job, huge job. But one of the things, and I have to say, even with this program, oral histories are so important. You know, when I got an invitation this year to do an oral history for the Library of Performing Arts in New York. Of course, COVID came in and stopped that, and we didn't get back to it yet. We will, I'm sure, next year. But I'm aware that some things only you can tell. You know, it's your story. Only you can tell it. And the oral history is so valuable for those kinds of things, because I thought, oh, gee, you know, but because of that, I started to look at my past and look at and connect all these dots, you know, how I got from here to there. And some days it amazes me that I did X, Y, and Z, you know what I'm saying? But, you know, of course, part of it was youth. I was fearless. I would just go and get whatever I needed today. I'd think more about it, you know, but when you're younger, you don't always think. And thank God you don't, because sometimes if you thought about it enough, you might not have done it. So, you know, but like you say, getting that stuff out And because those elders we were in the room with them.
Right.
And that's different from just reading it in a book or seeing it on a YouTube.
Right.
When you've been in the room with these people, that's so, those are your roots. So young people today haven't had that opportunity. They need to be in the room with more of us to know what it's all about, so they can hear, because in oral histories you get things you don't get in any other place. So that's why it's so valuable. But listening, but Acia said something from the very beginning. I too am going through, some days I'm overwhelmed. I just have to listen for where people are coming from, where the pain is coming from, and how deep the pain is, and how many layers, of what we're going through. And it's good that we're going through it, because you don't get anywhere. You don't, it's like anything. You got to go through painful times to get to the other side. But we can do this if you're willing to listen. You got to hear, so there are days, I have had days when I'm just so overwhelmed by all this. I'll just do nothing. I just sit and think, and reflect. But that's good too, because sometimes we need to stop.
Deborah, how is it for your tap dance ensemble at the moment? How is it looking? Do you get support? Will that survive? How is your also in the movement? Everybody says yes, Black Lives Matter.
Well, right now, we have basically our support has come in the past through funders, like foundation support and that kind of thing. And of course, we have a board and advisors who listen to what we're going through. But primarily, it's our fans, the people who love us, who love what we do. That's where the support is coming from. We do have, like I said, our funders, including our Arts Council and foundation support comes through for us. But they are, it's not a lot. We have to really, depend on the public. That's really what we're all about.
So for tickets, you mean?
And we don't have what I call a calendar of events, like some companies have a calendar of events that are coming forward, because it goes back to promoting the art form into having shows of that nature. If we don't do it ourselves, if we don't produce programs ourselves, very few people are going to come to us about it, because like I said, once again, it's tap dancing, and unless you have someone who really promoters who really appreciate what you do, you're not going to have we should have many more concert performances or just outlets to show, we have some tremendous talent in this organization. But getting it out there is very, very difficult. Most of them are teaching first. But even that, that's difficult these days, because you either record your teaching or you do it on Zoom. It's not easy. It's not easy. And we do have, we apply for some of the like the payroll protection plan. We have, within our organization, everyone is supportive, but we've got to get, we need a lot more. So I've learned though that the general public, those people that know who we are and know our artists, they are very, very generous. They give, when you don't expect them to give. And that's why some of our programs, I know during this time, we've had to, just to keep us out there, we've done some programs like our master classes for very little fees, because we also know that people, are out of work. And the arts is, unfortunately, the arts at this stage of the game is on the shelf, because people are looking at food, shelter, clothing. They can't, going to a concert or taking a dance class is not a high priority, and you can understand that, because they're trying to survive. So a lot of what we have, we've given away almost, because we want our fan base in particular to know that we are with you. you know, like Tony said, if you have a donation you wish to make, we appreciate that. But we're trying to ride it. We're you know, it's truly, as my mom would say, hand to mouth. We're just trying to
Yeah.
ride this wave because we don't know. You know, it's very hard to see the
Yeah.
future right now. It really is. It
Got to
really
stay
is.
present.
How is it in Austin? Are you supported? And
We are supported by the city of Austin, and as of maybe 4 weeks ago, they announced that we were going to get a minimum of a 58% cut in city funding because it's based in hotel motel taxes. The council did decide to fund 100% our Black artists and organizations, which I think was a wonderful move at the time because there were people that thought it should be, you know, slow. You figured out the whole city was going through an equity reevaluation. So in many ways, that's such a positive move for Austin. But Austin in general was called the music capital of the world, and it was living that reputation, has lost probably hundreds of live music venues by now. The theaters, not the biggest ones, you know, they may have their endowments. The smaller ones are struggling, trying to find creative ways to stay alive.
the root out there.
You know, what's that?
The root mechanicals, right?
Exactly, Rude Max, right. Rude Mechanicals, Ground
Great.
Floor Theater, the Vortex. There's so many, there's very creative people here, and we're talking to each other. We're going to try to host something very soon about just getting, you know, some ideas together. Collaboration is what we're talking about. But again, Austin public will not go inside. And I do agree with you guys. It's hard for me. My gut knows that we'll live through this. My heart just hurts right now.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
that's where I'm living in. But, you know, just like doing something, you know, the cars in the circle in the parking lot, like a drive-in theater, then you start looking at who's going to let you do that on the property and liability things, and blah, blah, blah. There's so many things to think about. And, you know, back to what I said earlier about, you know, trying to do something online, it's getting into creativity process of a filmmaker. Not that we don't have connections to them, but do we have a budget to support something above and beyond what we are doing? I am, and we are planning on supporting our company that has shrunk from 8 professional dancers to 5 for budgetary reasons over budget cuts that were taken a couple of years ago citywide. But it's hard to know where Austin's going to come out of this. We're a very liberal city, very supportive of each other, but some of our beloved restaurants and iconic places are closing daily. So it's really hard to know, and I know we're not the only city going through that, and it's really hard to know what's going to happen. I wish we all, you know, I'll say a political statement, but I wish we all would have had a Cuomo in our court, you know, in trying to manage the COVID-19 crisis months ago. Because, you know, some of the states we're in did not do the same thing. And it's just, it's not, like, you know, we've been blessed as well. We're one of 7 organizations here in Austin that was blessed with an NEA Cares grant. And I feel so blessed that that happened. And there were so many deserving, everybody that applied, I wish could have gotten that. But it, you know, I look budget wise, it doesn't make up for the 58% cut that's going to happen with the city. So it's like even trying to get back to a minimum without earned income.
Well, and you have, sorry for interrupting, but
No.
similar to me, you have a space that you have to
Yes.
keep.
Yes. Paying
somehow.
rent on an empty space.
So yeah, so you have to like rejig all of that too. Like, what do you do with that space? I know, Deborah, you rent space.
Yeah, and that we're not doing that right now, only because of naturally of the risks that are involved. As far as,
But if you have a lease and you want to keep things going,
and I have to say too, we have survived with some out of this world in-kind support. You know, people
Yeah.
who just love the company. I don't know where we would be without some of the people that, I mean, they're not just, you know, throwing at you, making do. These are professional people, you know,
That's
who
right.
know what they're doing, who have been willing because they know, you know, that the company, the heart of the company, they know that we're real, that we're not, that we're
Yeah.
trying to serve the
Exactly.
community. So, you know, things that they do, I mean, everything from costumes to, you know, to marketing. You know, we don't have a big budget. We're just not in that, you know, doing that. But,
Right.
and even the funders, you know, at least with the Arts Council, they will send us emails about opportunities in the field, you know, so that at least everyone knows everyone is going through a very difficult time. So it's not like they've forgotten about you, but the money is just,
The need is so great.
the need is so great. And like I said, and I really do understand, you know, that people are trying to survive. Like even with the classes, I worry about the fact that everybody doesn't have a computer. You
No.
know, I mean, we're talking
Or
about,
internet.
right, it's disproportionate. I mean, there's some people
Yeah,
who've got
same.
everything.
Yeah.
We've got people who, you know, one of the things that I've done, believe it or not, is I get on the phone and call people. An old-fashioned thing. Just say, how you doing? We haven't
Yeah.
forgotten about you, because everybody's not connected. You know, it's, you know, and, you know, people say, well, we'll have a Zoom class. Well, first of all, it's difficult to do a Zoom class. I don't care what anyone says with tap dancing, because you got audio problems, you
Oh,
got
it's
all
hard.
kind of things that interfere, you know, and scheduling. So you know, every child, if there's one computer in the house, maybe mom or dad is working from home, they can't be on there to do a tap class, you know, or
Right.
so you got to take into consideration all the everything that's the domino effect. What's affecting this person? The next,
Right.
so I call people up, you know, say, and I tell my artists, don't disconnect, because this is a time when you can become very, very depressed and not knowing. I mean, in a lot of our youth company, these are kids who are in school or would like to be in school, so they're at home now. They're not sure what's going to happen, so we have to stay in touch with them. But the bottom line is that I tell them, don't disconnect. Call one another. Let people know how you even are feeling, you know, because you can't get that through an email,
No.
or, you know, you got to physically, you know,
No.
what we're missing is the human
It is.
spirit and touch. And when they hear
Yeah.
your voice and you just say, I'm just calling to say I'm thinking about you, that goes a long way, you
Yeah,
know.
it
So
does.
those are, and I tell you something else I've discovered lately, is looking at how else we're connected. One of my dancers had just started to do some planting up, is doing some repotting. Well, I love plants, and I have a room here in the house that's like botanical gardens. So when I found out how much he loved planting, I took a little video with my phone and showed him all my plants and the names of them and everything. So we can connect on we have other things in common. Sometimes, you know, if you say, you know, let's talk about this, it gets you out of a funk where you're trying to do just this, including cooking. A lot of us are
Yeah.
cooking now more than we've ever cooked before. We've been sharing recipes and,
Yep.
you know, things.
Yep.
But it's the human element that's the only thing that will bring us out of,
Yeah.
you know, this tendency to become depressed and saddened, you know, about what's going on. But we have to face it. There are days, you know, when it's I'm not sure.
Oh, there are days when we just want to quit.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep, yep.
Let's just be real. We
Yeah.
just want to quit.
And we just
Yeah.
can't.
No, that's true, Tony.
Just say, oh, forget it. You know, it's too hard. And it is. There are days that's what we have in our little lunches. We talk about that. How are you surviving? How are you, you know? But it's so good to have an opportunity to share, you know.
Yeah.
So what a privilege I feel it always is to tell for someone to even want to know how you're doing.
Right.
You know, some people don't even care. You
Right.
know, so for this to have this opportunity. When Tony called me, I said, oh, I would love to share.
Yeah.
Because we need to be connected. Otherwise, you go downhill fast.
Yeah.
It's
Really do.
It's rough.
It's a really, really hard time for everybody, but especially for the one who are not in the center, the disenfranchised already over centuries, over a long time. We had Karina Switch, who's a Latinx writer and translator, and she said our theaters are going to close. They are small ones anyway. They barely are doing it. She thinks it's going to be an extinction of what keeps variety, diversity, of what makes America America. The languages you hear on the street, the songs and the movements. It shouldn't happen. It should be at the center, and it's a.
Well, people take, not to cut you off, but people take the arts, I think, sometimes for granted. Yeah. Because, when you have to stay home, then all of a sudden, if you think about your life, what enriches you? What enriches your life? Well, maybe it's a good book that you've read. It's a movie. It's a concert. It's something, that, and we just take it for granted, that, I'll go to the movies this weekend, or when all of that gets shut down completely, all of a sudden people realize, and you hear people talk about sports a lot, how important sports are. Well, artists, when Broadway is shut down, you talk about who gets affected. Well, you've got the ushers. You've got restaurants who are nearby that are only maybe there because they're in, say, a certain area in New York. You've got concessions. You've got souvenirs. There are people working there. When that's shut down, it's like with sports. They talk about, the parking. Where are they going to park for the game? And selling things. Well, the arts have the same kinds of problems, and no one is thinking about it because they think, oh, gee, it's fun. They're artists, they're dancers, they're singers. This is it's a career. It's something that, we have to survive too. And
the arts do have a significant impact economically, but also socially. But even beyond that, art is a reward for a great society, or for a city that works, and you enjoy it. Good sports, and I like sports, but someone loses and wins. But theater and the arts, you see things from different sides. You see what the opposites, what the contradictions we all live in, that there's truth. There's a Michael Frayn, a great playwright, said, a great play is when every character is right, what he or she says, and the same is, and if you look at TAP, if you look at George Nierenberg's great documentaries on TAPs, No Maps on My TAPs.
No Maps on My TAPs.
If you want to know what a great art form that is, the subtlety, the beauty, also the way of, using your feet, the only thing you had when you went from house to house, and the movement that then stolen in a way by Hollywood, and then the community left it in a way and slowly came back, perhaps a bit with Jackson and his White Sox, Michael Jackson, but the subtlety of it, and if you see, I forget the artist, but I once saw a video of him. He was dancing on steel and sand, tap dancer. It was like a Beckett play. It was like the highest form of an artistic. I felt, uttering or rendering or a comment on existence of life, and tap is such a brilliant and beautiful form, and also the contemporary new one is has found hybrid forms that are no longer the traditional ones, or the ones we kind of have in our minds. What people do in America, companies from Argentina and Japan and Americans, and what they come up with is stunning, and it has to be and should be supported, and it is not. So what is your outlook? Do you think that it will throw you back a decade, or do you think perhaps people will see, no, TAP is something that's alive, we can do it, we can study, it will come out stronger?
I think it's going to be self-preservation of the artists that are in it right now, the artists and the teachers and those that are connected to our past that are going to keep it alive. It will not come outside of our own community, I don't believe. I don't think the average American or the average person's going to go, oh, now I'm interested in tap dance. No, it's got to come from our family and then directed to communicate outside that circle.
Yeah. It's definitely, we have to do the work.
Yeah, we have to do the work.
Exactly. It's not
Yeah.
going to, because like I said, we're 26 years old. And when I started, I was fighting to give it respect and I wanted to be
And you're
respected.
still doing.
And I'm exactly, and I'm still fighting to give it respect and its place. It gets lumped into folk dance and things.
Right.
It does
Other.
and other. It'll be on some grants, on some forms there'll be ballet, there'll be modern,
Ethnic.
ethnic, and other or folk.
Right.
Where is tap? I mean, I said to myself, why doesn't it's a category? It needs to pull out of that, and I don't think it's just because I love it. I know I'm right.
No, you are right. You are right. Yeah, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I think you are right. And I think that so much of our grant processes and applications all tie back to academia. And academia has always been set in a Eurocentric mentality. And I'll guarantee you, unless that system changes, it's going to stay the same. And there will be people that will try to preserve the ballet world.
Oh, yes.
There will be. But until that system and that system changes and the educational system changes in colleges and universities as to what is represented in not only tap dance but jazz dance and I mean just dance beyond ballet and what used to be called modern. I mean, there are colleges that still teach what's called modern. Now it's contemporary, which is
Contemporary.
Everything that's not, the kitchen sink. But there's people that don't realize that hip hop culture and jazz culture and tap culture and all of that is from it's the same roots. It's the same
exactly
the same tree. And until that changes, then the grant program and the applications won't change. But back to the original question, the change will happen inside our community. It will not be unless something radical changes in government, it's not going to come from outside of us.
No, absolutely not. No.
And it's going to be a long haul like it has been. It's in the same way that Black Lives Matters. We're going to have to do a lot of work that we probably won't even see the benefits of in our generation. It will be for the future, and that's okay, but that's one of the reasons why it's so hard to wrap your brain around some of this and put in the energy.
It is. And I mean, it's hopeful in knowing that, before John Lewis passed, and I can't believe in the passing happening on Friday, but he had mentioned and people have talked about that what's has gone on now is bigger than what happened in the 60s. So there's more, the diversity's bigger, the groups are bigger, there's more stuff, and people are, I won't say angrier, because how could you not, obviously in the 60s there was horrible stuff that was just as much anger, but the numbers are bigger. Is it a coincidence we were in COVID-19 so thousands, if not millions of people could gather in a protest of inequality and Black Lives Matter? That wouldn't have happened if that would not have happened. So I'm a big believer in rhythm and energy and love, and negative energy begets negative energy, and positive, it comes back to you. And this is a big karmic event. There's just a lot of darkness. I don't mean to get all spiritual.
That's all right. But it's like you said, you're correct. But see, one thing about COVID-19 with the protests and all that, people were not working.
Right.
So they could get out and march. Right. Okay, they could, which is a difference from, the normal kind of protest that, okay, some people over here got together, but it's a global, it's a pandemic.
Exactly.
So you got people, everybody's looking at the same thing,
right.
So you can't.
It was great. And it was wonderful.
You can't hide,
And we can't stop. And it just has, and it can't stop. But I do, because it's bigger, because more people are involved, hopefully, change is going to happen in November for the U.S. government, that, action will be taken. There were big actions taken in 63 and 65 and 68.
Oh, yes,
it can happen in our lifetime as far as law changes, as far as, many things that need to be adjusted, because it's the laws and the way that they're, can get around law, and how people, I mean, there's so many things.
Yeah, we're learning so much more. I mean, if you go back to the 70s, you didn't find out how things played out or what was going on for 20 years.
Exactly.
All of a sudden, you heard about the Vietnam War and what was all the politics that played into that, and all the presidents that decided for whatever reason to continue that war or not. Right. But now, everything is, I mean, we're finding out about things before they happen. I mean, we're hearing all kinds of opinions about everything.
Right.
Like daily in the minute, and some of it's right and some of it's wrong and some of it's important, some of it's like bullshit.
Right.
But, so it's confusing, but at least I think we have the capacity, and there's the possibility of moving a little bit quicker now.
Yeah. I hope. Because communication is quicker. I mean, it makes logical sense.
If we could just get, the leadership issue together.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I think it is a big moment of change, and I really, really hope that also tap dance will be part of it, and that it will catch some of the wind of the change. Like jazz had also a hard time. I think it was jazz at Lincoln Center that fundamentally also changed, and then the relation into it. And I do hope that something like this also will happen. We are coming towards the end of the session. Is there something, as a short statement, what do you say to a young artist, a young tap artist, if they say, should I take a class, should I not take a class, or how should I use this time now? If all of you could give a short advice from your experience, what should people do?
Well, I really want them to if it's a young tap artist, I want them to look at its history. I want them to dig deep. I really do. And they have time to do it now, so that they know, it didn't start yesterday. It didn't start 10 years ago. That to look at the history, become knowledgeable, because that's where your power is, to understand the art form, and, and not just look at it as, oh, isn't that fun to do? Yes, it is. And it is wonderful. It makes you feel fantastic. But know your history. Yeah. I had to do that myself. As an adult, I had to go back, because so much of the history is not in the books, and it was not. No. It wasn't made available to me. I had to do my own search. Yep. So that's what I would tell any young artist. Know where. I'm never against going forward. I mean, all of us, the world has changed, and we need new minds and new. It's like trying to find this vaccine. Somebody's going to come up with that. We have to keep looking, but you got to know where you came from to go forward, so that you don't make some of those, so you appreciate it, and because like people ask me all the time, they say, well, Deborah, what do you think about these young people? I think they're wonderful, because without young people wanting to do this, it's going to die on a vine anyway. So you got to make sure that not only do you let them know you appreciate and accept them, but make them understand where it came from. Yeah. And that gives them more power as they go forward. Yeah. Just know your history. Yep.
It is. Know your history. And I'm always, our steps are history. And you can find that out in doing your education. But to learn steps, especially from a screen, by rote, copying a teacher, is not what tap dance is about.
No.
Right. I mean, it can be about teaching a tool, just like tap dance is a language. Mm-hmm. And you can learn a language that's a direct, is a direct link to your mentor, your teachers, collection of teachers. Share what you know, share the oral history, pick up those things. But the history is what's going to make. Just like the English language, you can memorize, I've said this before, you can memorize a dictionary, but if you don't know your history and you don't have anything to say, what is it worth? The steps aren't worth anything unless you know what you're doing, with what you want to say, what you're representing in history, or what you're trying to communicate.
And I would only add to that do the work. And,
Yeah.
and the artistic work, if you really want to dance, then go into a studio
Yeah.
and dance.
Yeah,
You don't
true.
need somebody else to tell you what to do.
That's
I mean, yeah, do your history and get inspired, but go in there and figure something out for yourself.
Take care of
Make it
yourself.
up. Make it
Yeah.
up. Some of our best tap dancers didn't go to school. They have their own style that they created in their back, their back porch or in a studio on their own because they just wanted to make music. So,
Well, Tony, it's like Tony, I hate to cut you off. It's like I said, I never had a mirror.
Yeah.
I didn't,
Yeah.
I didn't, like today, some kids, all they can dance is in front of a mirror. But, if you learn how to dance like I did, almost in a dark room, by myself, that's why audience doesn't scare me, because I'm looking out. I'm not looking at me,
Right.
So forget the syllabus, the mirror,
Yeah.
the copying of the steps.
Just
go in and dance. Feel the rhythm. Have
Enjoy
fun.
it. That's right.
Enjoy it.
You're all right.
Feel your body. Feel the rhythm in your body.
Great advice. Know your history. Be present, and find your own steps. Don't
Find your own soul.
Don't make karaoke. Do your own stuff, and that's so important. I think that was a great update, and really thank you for sharing. This is a significant art form, and I think the great David Goddard at the Riverside Studios at the time, he was also one who said, these are great artists, they should come to Europe. He got them, and then Nuremberg got them on the film, and now you are the next generation, and you're educating the next one. So this is a important work, what you do, and yes, this is your experience of this time, and I'm so sorry, it's so tough and it's so hard, and that is really endangering in an existential way, not only lives which we are, but also your institutions and your work. So don't quit. Stay with it. On the Segal Center Talks, we will go around the world, and we will have tomorrow Carl Hancock Rax, a fantastic and brilliant mind, a New York theater artist, writer, producer, poet, and he is a great mind, and he will share what he's thinking about. We will have on Wednesday from one of the great theaters in France, Philippe Quenet, I hope I say it right, from the Théâtre des Arts Mondiaux out in Nanterre, is one of the big theaters, and we hear from him what he is planning, how he's reacting there. Betty Chamier will talk to us from San Francisco. She's from the Arab American theater community, and we're going to hear from her also how that feels like. She's based in New York and in San Francisco and goes back and forth. And then the Adelheid Rosen from the Netherlands and Amsterdam, a great theater maker, an artist, community organizer, and socially engaged artist. We'll talk with Melanie Joseph here from the Great Foundry Theater about what we need to do in theater, how can we react, how can we do meaningful work that perhaps gets also the audience awards, the ones, Deborah, you got, and that is important. And I really, if any funders are out there, you support TAP. I think it's a significant form. It needs also room to breathe, to experiment, to be supported, and something great, might come out. And what you have now is your body, you have a space. So perhaps if you're interested in TAP yourself, this is a moment you can do it. If we all in our own rooms for a year long, there's something we all can discover. Thanks for HowlRound for hosting us. Tony, thanks for calling your colleagues for us and bringing both of them in. This is a great contribution. And thanks to the Segal team, and I hope
Thank you.
Be able to.
Thank you, Frank, for having us and being concerned, and good seeing you, ladies.
Okay, so thank you all. Bye-bye. And goodbye.
Thank you.
Audience, stay safe, wear a mask, and stay tuned. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
I love it. That was great.
That was great.
That was wonderful.
I'm glad we had this
we get to continue.
I know, this is cool.
I know. I'm glad.
And they're recording. They're still recording.
I love it. Deborah, I miss you.
Oh, listen, I'm telling you, it's so good. This is the upside. At least I see your face,
Right,
and they can see, and I'm always amazed at how emotional this makes me. I usually, how you think you're on top of something, and you can express yourself, but it's like yesterday, it brings back so many memories, and and I can still see him and hear the things that his little jokes. He was always joking about, it's a little,
I love it.
and taking me to showmans and,
Oh my
things.
gosh, yeah.
Oh,
I mean, the thing is that we're confronted at the moment with all these questions,
Yeah.
and we tend to like turn to and try to figure out, or we must validate our situations.
Yeah, that's the big one right there.
That's the big question, and then, but okay, that's fine. That's fine. But we know what we're doing. We've been doing this a long time.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, nobody's going to take this away from me.
No.
Good.
No, absolutely.
You've done beautiful work, Tony, and you've supported
we all have. It's been a community. It has been a community.
It has been a community.
Yeah.
How many times?
It wouldn't be this far. I mean, when you think back, with people, even when they branch off, but where did they start? They came to the festivals, and you brought them in, and people, you know what I'm saying?
And whether you get credit for that or not, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Good people, bad people. There are bad seeds and good seeds, and it's always going to be that way.
It doesn't matter.
And sometimes that's probably a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you got to
point out how wonderful certain people are. Thank you very much. You too.
Aww. Okay, so the next time you guys go to lunch,
we'll Zoom
you need to FaceTime me or something. Because I am
to do that.
Jealous.
We love our lunches. I mean, we just that's so good.
So jealous.
I don't know what I would do without them, because many times I'm just, you get overwhelmed and fed up, and then you sit down and when you start to talk, you say, yeah, I'm doing that too. This
right.
It validates what we're trying to do. You know what I mean? It does.
I mean, Tony and I were able.
Yeah. And that, like what you said, listening. You got to listen to each other.
Yes. Yes. When Tony and I talked last week or whenever, a couple of times, it's like you can breathe. You can just let go.
Yeah.
Feel like you're in a safe place to bitch and vent.
Right. That's right.
You know each other's experiences, and then you can grow and share and communicate.
Sure. Exactly.
Oh.
And you
Kyle, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm afraid I do have to end the live stream.
Hey, well, listen, that part was probably the really good stuff.
Yeah. I love it. Thank you so much.
Unfiltered.
Thank you.
Thank you, Howard.
Thank you so much.
Everybody be well. Stay well.
Okay.
Okay.
Love you guys.
Love you. Okay, bye-bye.